Hey guys, Will here. So we're sitting in a Focus RS today around Sonoma Rallycross circuit. We're going to be going for our very first drive in the Traction Plus platform from Next Level Racing. So we thought Rallycross would be a good way to sort of start this off. A bit of an extreme circumstance, but I think the best way to sort of give you an impression of just what this thing is capable of. And then obviously we'll test a bunch of other cars and dial things in a little bit further from there. So really don't know what to expect here. I'm kind of a little bit nervous about how the movement of the cockpit relative to what I'm seeing on the screen might work. Obviously our screens are fixed here, so they're not moving with the cockpit. There's lots of questions that need to be answered. Hopefully we'll be able to answer a whole bunch of them in this video, or at least sort of lay a path down so we know what we should be investigating into the future. Let's go. Whoa. That's mental. I mean, I'm not the world's best rallycross driver by any means, but I can feel the back end just kind of snaking underneath me. That is crazy. I don't know how it's going to feel in a road car when it's like, it doesn't feel over exaggerated in this car. Whoop, we're going to hit the wall. No, we're not. We're going to keep it off the wall. It doesn't feel over exaggerated in this car. I mean, I got no idea how it looks on camera. That's one of the things I'm worried about, is that the movement of the cockpit relative to the cabin on the camera might look weird. But from a driver's perspective, whoa! Oh, we got a penalty. Whoa. This thing is a little pocket rocket too. It's like, I was reading the specs before, it's like 0 to 100 in 2 seconds flat or something ridiculous. But just the side to side movement, it really does give you that sense of initial G-force, at least anyway. I mean, it's not really sustained G-force because it can't keep moving infinitely, but it really does give you that sensation of the car turning in, and I can feel the front end of the car kind of snaking around underneath me as well. One of the reasons I chose this car initially as well is because it is all-wheel drive, so you do kind of get that understeer, or that effect of the front end pulling the back end into shape, which is a sensation that I'm used to from all my years driving a WRX. So it's a pretty familiar kind of feeling to me. And I gotta say, it is recreated pretty accurately, at least in these kinds of conditions. It'll be, you know, once we get on the road and we're sort of testing out the finesse of the system a little bit more, I think that's where it'll really sort of put it through its paces. But man, I really need to work on my rallycross. It's shaking up my stomach too. I shouldn't have had lunch right before I recorded this. But I can't wipe the grin off my face. It's kind of like when I tested out the V3 platform initially as well, and you know, it was just sort of blown away by the overall immersion and experience, and the butt kicker as well. And I've got all 3 of them running now, and we'll have a look at the software in a little bit of detail in a moment too, but this is so good. I'll do one more lap. Bring the front end around, come on. I don't know whether I'm better with this or not, because I'm not particularly good at rallycross anyway, but I feel like I'm actually controlling the throttle a little bit more accurately than I otherwise would have as I hit the wall. Just because I think the thing that's making the most difference is I'm feeling what's going on with the front end of the car a lot more. It's not so much the rear, it's more, I can feel when the front end's breaking away, and I can modulate my throttle inputs a lot more accurately just based off that feeling of the front end skating away and sort of, you know, crabbing out. Let me just do one more turn here. I'll just go through this high-speed turn once more. Get it back out and... yeah, I can, just through here especially, I'm able to modulate that throttle and really control just how far the car skates out. Get the balance right through here, cut it tight. There goes my mouse. The mouse just went flying off the platform. Getting the feel of it now. All right, let's do one more lap while we're in the zone here. A little late. Oh, it's so hard to get the balance right there. I'm using the, whoops. Oh, you feel it when you hit the wall square, and I tell you that. I'm using the analog paddles on the wheel as well as handbrakes. I just thought that it'd be a little bit easier to take one less thing that I have to do and concentrate on while I'm driving. But I think, yeah, as an initial impression, it's definitely adding a lot. I mean, it's so much to take in that I don't really even know where to start. So I think the next thing to do now is jump in a road car. We might do a rear-wheel drive road car and just sort of feel that sort of finer finesse in the system. We haven't done any fine tuning yet at all. This is literally just plug it in, switch it on and drive. And I mean, for Rallycross, it feels absolutely incredible without sort of unpacking it further. So let's jump in a rear-wheel drive road car now and yeah, see how that feels. So Porsche 911 Cup car around Bathurst. Nice twisty circuit, lots of high-speed corners, lots of twisties, and should be a good opportunity to sort of get that lateral load going on, see how that kind of G-force effect feels through the turns, as well as quite a difficult car to drive too, quite rear happy. So we should sort of get a good feel for how the breakaway feeling kind of assists our driving here. So we'll head out. We are still running just the default platform settings, so we haven't made any adjustments at all yet. So yeah, let's see what it feels like. Let's head out. Now, one thing that I didn't really notice when I was doing the Rallycross driving was any sort of weirdness between what I was seeing on the screens and the movement of the cabin. I think it might have been because there was so much going on that I kind of just couldn't pay attention to it. I'm looking around, I'm moving my head everywhere, and it's all a little bit chaotic. So let's see how this goes. So far it feels okay again. Okay, yeah, it's a little weird. It definitely feels unfamiliar. It feels like I have to kind of learn to drive it again. But yeah, there's definitely a little, I'm noticing it a lot more driving a road car. When I turn in, I really kind of notice the way the cabin's shifting around me. It kind of just looks a little bit unnatural. When I'm turning my head to follow it, it's okay. Like, I feel like I could get used to it. But it does kind of, I wouldn't say it ruins the immersion by any means, but it definitely feels a little bit wrong. And I'm sure that you guys are seeing that on the side view camera as well, the sort of cabin view camera, the face to cam, as I call it. I'm sure that kind of looks wrong. I mean, you know, we had a bit of a look at the footage before of the Rallycross car, and you could see that it did kind of ruin that shot a little bit. So we might have to have a little bit of a play around with head tracking maybe a little bit later on and see whether that fixes it. But let's talk a little bit more about the feeling of the car now. I am still getting a sort of sick feeling in my stomach. As I said before, I did eat about half an hour ago, which probably wasn't the best idea, but I don't think it's from motion sickness. I think it's just from the fact that it really is throwing me around a lot. Whoa, big slide in the rear. I really felt that slide though. And the texture of the grass as well. You actually feels quite amazing. Just run over the grass a little bit again. Yeah, it rattles you from side to side as well. All right, let's try. Now we've got a little bit more heat in the tires. Yeah, when you run up over the ripple strips, it really it does give a very accurate sort of representation of that sort of immediate G-force. Sustained G-force is going to be where it's going to struggle, because obviously when it slides sideways, there's only so far it can go before it has to stop. Over the bump here. Oh, it did feel the car getting light. Brake a little early because I'm still not confident. Back on the gas. Can feel the back end sort of snaking on me a little there. Can definitely feel the back end getting light under brakes as well. Turn her in, get on the gas nice and early. Back end will get light over this little crest here. Normally we back off a little bit. Turn her in. Oh, just skim the wall. It's certainly a lot more energetic. It really, you're using your core muscles to sort of brace yourself inside the seat. It really, it genuinely feels like it's at the point now where I really do need to be wearing a seatbelt. With just the motion platform, it did feel a little bit silly sometimes still, I will admit. And I mean, I did use it for the seatbelt tensioner mod as well that we've covered on the channel before, but yeah, just there, I could really feel the back end breaking away on me. I'm certain that I'm way off my pace at the moment. I don't have any overlays running, so I can't really see. But yeah, that lap up until that point, I didn't notice the weirdness with the cabins moving independently of the rig at all. And that's still running 1-to-1 settings. Oh God, I feel like I'm gonna spew. Feel the back end snaking there again under brakes. It really is incredibly immersive. But yeah, if I pay attention to it, if I look down at the dash, I can definitely see it looks unnatural. So I wouldn't say confident, but I'm hoping that's something that we can fix up with head tracking. I feel like theoretically it should work. I mean, the software, and again, we'll take a look at the software in a moment, but the software does allow for VR head tracking. So theoretically it should be possible to do a similar sort of thing, or position tracking with VR. So it should be possible to do a similar sort of thing with the head tracking system. So we'll see. I mean, my braking points are just all over the place at the moment because I do need to get used to this. But I think the thing that's amazing me is how well the motion platform integrates with the traction loss platform. It really does feel like they don't feel like they're fighting each other at all. It feels really, really natural. Just come up and down the hill again. I feel like it probably does need to be turned down a little bit though. I do think that it's a little bit too exaggerated. So what I'll do is we'll do a little bit of tweaking, and we might jump back in this car again, I think. Whoa, whoa, nearly lost the back end. I felt that though. I don't know whether the traction loss was sort of what enabled me to save that. But it does, I do feel like I'm starting to develop a little more confidence on the brakes. Let's try braking a little later down here this time. We'll see if we can get the back end to sort of snake on us a little bit. Whoa, pull her up, pull her up, pull her up. Yep, got it. Get a bit of oversteer going as well. I haven't really talked much about oversteer yet, so we'll see if we can get a bit of a slide. A little bit too much. Oh. Oh man, it really does throw you around. But yeah, I think what I'll do now is I'll spend a little bit of time in the software. I'll try and dial in the settings a little bit more, get it a little bit more tamed and a little bit less aggressive, I think. But it does feel quite smooth. You know, it doesn't feel robotic in any sense, really, even cranked all the way up. So yeah, so far I've got to say it's. I mean, I wouldn't say it's surpassing my expectations because I did have high expectations for this. But yeah, it feels every bit as good as I'd hoped it would, is what I can say at this point. So let's spend a bit of time now in the software tweaking a few things. And yeah, we'll come back and go for another drive. All right, so what we have here in front of us is the basic profile that runs through all the settings for both the motion platform and the traction loss platform. And I'm not going to go through all this in detail yet because we are waiting on some more detailed information from Next Level Racing. And I want to take you through this in a dedicated video where we really get into the nitty-gritty of exactly what every single one of these settings does. But we'll go into oversteer, understeer, and you can see everything is set pretty much to just default 1, 1, 1, 1, everything, and that's for the motion platform as well. That's how we had it set up. So we're going to go back in now and load my profile, which we've created. We just spent about maybe 20 minutes, half an hour just fine-tuning things, getting it to the point where we felt like it wasn't overly exaggerated and we could really sort of feel what was going on with the car without it being over the top. I think one of the things on reflection that we kind of noticed with the first section there was when the car oversteers, it does it quite gradually, but when the car sort of snaps back into line again, because the platform can't sort of, you know, the actuators on the platform can't go back quick enough, it just feels a little bit off. So I think that reducing the amount of movement in total will kind of probably bring that into line a little bit better. So I'll open up this road profile now. You can see these are the settings that I've been running, and you guys have been asking me forever for the settings that I use for the motion platform. So here you go. So basically what we've done, we've cranked down the overall sensitivity just to give it a little bit less movement. And I've cranked it down a little bit more on the pitch and roll, just because I'm finding, particularly the roll, because I'm finding that the sway and yaw in the traction loss platform kind of compensates for that in a way. And I know Barry mentioned that same thing in his review of the same configuration, basically. So I would definitely agree with what he said there. You know, what we're getting in terms of the sway and the yaw kind of compensates for the roll in the platform. So the other thing that I've done, if we go down here, is I've wound the weight transfer bias for the motion platform quite far back. So when we brake, it does kind of throw us forward in our seat a bit, and that gives you a really nice sort of G-force effect, particularly with the belt tensioner system that we did with the Oki straps. And I'll put a link down in the description below for you guys who might not have seen that before as well, because that's an interesting one. But if we go into the traction loss platform now as well, we actually ended up winding up the understeer effect a little bit. We found that it kind of just helped us with that communication of what was going in with the front end a little bit. Vehicle understeer proneness, this is like an interpolation filter for sims that don't have enough understeer data coming through or don't have the correct understeer data coming through their telemetry. So it's kind of using other data to create it in the sim. So that is actually on the default setting right now. We didn't really want to play with it too much and we didn't really understand exactly what it was doing. And I don't think it actually was doing anything with iRacing anyway, because I'm pretty sure the data is there. But again, we'll clarify that later on. Oversteer effect intensity, we just left that at the default setting of 1. Lateral G-force intensity, we cranked that down. This is kind of what I was talking about before with, you know, when it was moving sideways, it kind of wouldn't come back fast enough. So we cranked that down to a point where it still gives you a bit of a side-to-side sensation, but not quite so exaggerated as before. Turning effect intensity, same kind of thing again, but we turned that down even more. Turning effect pivot point. This is sort of the front to rear bias of how it pivots. So whether it's sort of pivoting in the middle or moving the same amount on the front to, you know, in proportion to the rear, or whether the rear moves a little bit more than the front. So we've got the bias set towards the front at the moment. Low speed threshold, it's basically just changing how the effect works depending on how fast you're going. And then the wheelbase measurement is one that I don't fully understand yet. This is one of the ones that Next Level Racing are going to get back to us. And then we do also have some post-processing going on here as well, which just allows us to adjust the linearity curves of the post-roll, pitch, and yaw, sway, and that's it. So again, we'll focus on this in more detail once we've had a chance to really get our head around everything here. So let's jump back in again now, go for another drive in the same car and see how that feels. And then let's address after that the issues with the screens moving independent of the cabin, and see if we can get that looking good on camera. As I said, it doesn't really affect me all that much when I'm driving. I thought that, you know, when I did the initial driving, it was a little bit wacky and it was a little bit crazy, but once I kind of adjusted to it, it didn't really bother me all that much, but I'm sure it does look funny on camera, so we will try and sort that out too. But for now, let's jump back in the car and go for another drive. All right, let's see how it feels with those adjustments. So immediately feels less floaty, I guess is the best way to describe it. It felt a little bit like driving in a car with a broken seat that was moving around in the car a little bit before. Just initially, at least anyway, until you get used to it. Whoa, lock up. So yeah, having that front oversteer effect turned up, and again, it is going to be a personal preference thing. I'm not recommending you guys all go in and just jump in and start using my settings straight away, because this is only after, you know, 20 minutes or so of testing and adjusting, and I'm still very much a novice with this. Please do remember that this is a first impressions video, not a fully fledged review video. That'll come later. But yeah, I'm feeling, I think maybe the understeer effect is turned up a little bit too high for this car. Maybe just a touch too high, but I'm definitely feeling the nuance in the movement and the grip in the front of the car very, very clearly. Just maybe feels a little bit floaty still, but we'll get it turned in. The back end feels really natural now though. And it kind of comes into that less is more thing. We are still on cold tires here as well, but I'm able to sort of keep the back end in line and kind of feel what's going on and feather the brake and the throttle to keep it all in check. And I'm noticing, yeah, look, I am noticing that weird cabin movement more. The more I kind of get used to everything else and the more I adjust to, you know, just the general novelty of everything that's going on, the more I am noticing that weird movement in the cabin. So yeah, we'll definitely address that next, I think, or at least attempt to. I've got no idea whether we're going to be able to fix that. That might just be something that we have to learn to live with. Whoa, drifting. Keep it off the wall. Okay, let's flick it around. That feels really weird. Does feel quite realistic though. It obviously doesn't have the same throw that you would get in a real car. But again, this is the thing that you got to remember with these things. And I think this is the thing where people tend to get a little bit confused. And I think sometimes people see it as a bit of a cop-out. But with the V3 platform and this traction loss platform, they're not necessarily trying to recreate exactly the same sensors and the same feelings that you would get in a real car. What they're trying to give you is the cues that your body can use to interpret what's going on with the car. You know, obviously we can't generate sustained G-force without continuous rotation. That's something that's just not going to be possible on the relatively small footprint that we have here. Obviously you need some sort of a, you know, full gyroscopic system to be able to do that. And those kinds of systems do exist, but they take up a lot of space and they're incredibly expensive. Now, obviously this platform is expensive too. 10,000 Australian dollars is not a small amount of money by any means, but you know, we're talking systems that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So there are going to be some compromises there in terms of, you know, what it's able to reproduce and what it isn't, but it definitely feels like it's giving me the things that I need. And yeah, I mean, I'm still getting used to it, so I'm going to be all over the place. And I think that maybe the understeer effect is still a little bit high, but yeah, as a first impression, I feel like we're definitely on the right path there. And I'm going to spend a good few hours kind of fine tuning things more and really getting things dialed in. We'll talk to Next Level Racing a whole bunch more as well and get their input on everything too. But I think the next thing we want to address now is this weird screen movement. See if we can get that sorted out. The idea is to hook up the head tracker thing that we built probably 6 or 7 months ago now. We built a homemade one using a PlayStation Eye camera as well as like a homemade clip thing that tracks the movement. Now, I wasn't overly impressed with how that worked in the real world. So I don't know how this is going to work now, but at least as a proof of concept, I'm hoping it'll sort of be able to prove to us that head tracking can fix this problem. And then if we find that it does work, then we can have a look at what systems are out there that we can purchase that will fix the problem permanently, hopefully. So we'll get that all hooked up now. We'll show you what we've done, and then we'll jump back in. We think we might jump back in the Rallycross car to test that out, because that's kind of where we had the most extreme movement. That's where the footage kind of looked the most crazy. So let's address that now, and then we can wrap it all up with some final thoughts of our first impressions. All right, so after about 2 hours of fiddling around and just kind of experimenting, we think we've landed at least what is working as a proof of concept. So we initially had the head tracker or the camera system mounted up on the top of the screen, as you would with a conventional head tracking system, and the clip mounted on the seat pointing forward. We didn't want to have it mounted on the head because obviously the camera that we're using to shoot this fixed side position is in a fixed position in space, and if the perspective on the screen is moving with my head, then that's going to do weird things with that view. It's going to make it all kind of distorted and out of perspective. So what we wanted to have is the movement of the seat and everything that is physical in the shot. And if you have a look, we'll bring up on the screen now for you the shot so you can see what we're talking about. We wanted to have so everything that's physical inside the shot kind of blends in with, I guess in a mixed reality sense, blends in with what's on the screen so that it all kind of moves together in unison. So the way to achieve that is to have the platform itself tracked rather than my body being tracked. So what we've done here, clip on the back pointing at the PlayStation Eye camera, and this does seem to at least work as a proof of concept. So if we move the chair either side, we can see the perspective on the screen is moving. Now it's a little bit jerky, and this is kind of what we were talking about with this system not being ideal, but I think at least as a proof of concept, this is telling us that it's probably worth investing in a Track IR 5, I think, which is what we'll see if we can get our hands on in the next few days to test this out a little bit further. But it all seems to be working. We're using, for those who are interested, a little bit of software called OpenTrack, and you can see on the screen there, if you come in nice and close, those are the 3 infrared LEDs, and it's basically just tracking their position. So as we move the platform, those 3 dots move on the camera, and using the position of those dots relative to each other, it's able to triangulate its position and adjust the camera perspective on the screen. So look, to be honest with you guys, I mean, I don't really understand enough about this stuff to make a call, but at least to me, I can't really see any reason why this couldn't actually be implemented with the motion platform software. As we know, we do already have the VR motion compensation, and we know that we can control a camera based on third-party input like what we're doing with OpenTrack. So yeah, I can imagine that if you have the correct measurements, if you know the size of the screens, the angle of the screens, the distance the screens are away from the center point of the motion platform and the center point of the traction loss platform, I mean, it's a lot of measurement, but theoretically you should be able to come up with a system where, as long as it knows what its offset is, it's able to adjust based off those measurements to compensate the screen, you know, relative to the position of the platform. So yeah, I'm gonna go back to Next Level Racing and ask whether that's something that can be done, because it seems like a bit of a no-brainer to me, at least. Maybe there's a good reason why they haven't done it. I just don't know at this point, but I'll let you guys know. But at least for now, it seems that we probably have a system that's going to work. So we'll jump in, we'll go for another drive, just sort of as a proof of concept, see how this works, and then make a decision on whether we'll purchase a Track IR 5. I think they're about $500 for the full kit, so it's not a small investment, but yeah, I think it's going to be worthwhile if it gets the job done, and it's definitely going to make the quality of the content a lot better and make us able to integrate this system into it as well. So let's give that a go now. We'll also talk about what it feels like from a driver's perspective as well, whether it kind of gets rid of that weird kind of wishy-washy effect that was going on before. So let's go for a drive. All right, so let's see from a driver's perspective how this looks. Obviously, I can't see what you guys are seeing on the camera. Now, I don't expect this to be perfect by any means, but it's more just a proof of concept. We're going to see whether it seems like it's doing the right thing. So let's head out. Whoa, in the wall almost. Let me just move that mouse out of the way too. That's one problem I am having, is the mouse keeps on jumping. Whoops. The mouse keeps on jumping into the middle of the screen because it moves on the platform. So we're gonna have to get a different type of mouse, I think. That's all right. Okay, so it's definitely, I can see that it's doing something. It doesn't, like, it immediately doesn't feel as awkward as it did before, which is great. So Something's definitely happening different. Again, I don't know what it looks like on camera, so I can't comment on that side of things, but I feel like I'm able to control things a little bit better too, maybe. But it's definitely not giving me that sick in the stomach feeling like it was before. That could just be because I've had a bit of time to digest my food, admittedly as well, but it definitely seems better. So I feel like we're on the right track. I feel like I'm happy enough with this that I'm willing to invest the cash into buying the track IR just to sort of see whether it does do what we expect. But yeah, if I kind of turn slowly here, it definitely, I mean, I can still see a little bit of a warp. I think maybe there's a little bit of a lag, and that's something that we did talk about when we did the, when I built that head tracker originally. Just the lag was a problem, and I think, like, I'm seeing it move, but it's moving a little bit after it needs to. So hopefully the track IR kind of deals with that. But let's just do one more lap here because I'm having too much fun, and then we'll wrap it all up. It really does bite sideways. You really do feel that transfer of balance between the front and the rear. I think there might be a lot more rally style content coming on the channel because this is so much fun. All right, one more. See if I can nail this corner this time. A little late. Yeah, I'm definitely able to modulate my throttle inputs better than I could before. Just because I feel what's going on. Oh, off the wall. All right, well, one more jump and then we'll call it a day. All right. That's enough fun for one day. So, yeah, I think to summarize my initial impressions, and remember again, it is an initial impressions video, so it's by no means a conclusive review yet, and there's a lot that we need to learn about the settings. There's a lot of fine tuning, and I really do think this is something we probably need to sink at least 3 or 4 hours into just to really dial in those settings. And we're probably going to need to do that for each car that we drive at least regularly. I think it is something that you can jump in and enjoy, but I think to really get the most of it, and again, remembering that it is such an expensive piece of equipment, it is something that you're really going to want to spend the time to really fine tune and understand. So we will definitely be putting together a video once we've got our heads around it, explaining all that stuff to you guys as well, so you guys get a better picture of exactly how you can dial it in, because it is going to be a lot of personal preference. I don't think it's going to be one of those things that you're going to just want to copy somebody else's settings. You could use it as a base point to begin with, but yeah, you're definitely going to want to sort of fine tune it to your preference. So hopefully that's given you a good picture of what the experience is like. At least we've got a lot of work ahead of us in fine-tuning things, as well as getting the track IR sorted out. Hopefully that will enable us to put together some really, really amazing and immersive content, not only from a driving perspective, but for you guys watching the videos at home as well. So thank you very much. Leave a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video. Let us know down in the comments as well what else you'd like to see us test this with. Obviously there's a whole bunch of different cars. I want to do a formula style test as well. I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that kind of feels with stiffer suspension, downforce and things like that. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you guys would like to see. Make sure you're subscribed as well so you don't miss those future videos. And yeah, we'll see you again soon. Bye.